Wow, Music Fiend decided to appear right as I was starting. I can't believe it. I must be a lucky little prick. I'm gonna try to make this not that long because I'm apparently gonna go get something to eat after this. I don't know when exactly that's going to be. It could be 30 minutes. It could be 50, 60. Who knows? Um, but I was going to discuss this really aggravating, in my opinion, characteristic defect that people have that's really it's always been a thing, but it's been more obnoxious over the past maybe 2 years than any point before. So I have expressed disdain for people blaming me for things that I can't control. Um, and this is typically relating to the relationship stuff, employment stuff, situations where another person has to approve of me in some capacity for me to ascend to whatever I'm trying to get. Uh, but I still try to differentiate it by saying it's not the same thing as, let's say, me making a video that someone doesn't think is up to par. Like if, oh, you say, oh, this video doesn't have background music. Okay, that's something I could have controlled. I'll take responsibility for that because I'm the only person who could have determined whether that was going to be the case. But I thought it was really strange that I've been noticing more recently, just in the last several years, that there's this tendency among people. And look, I expect online clowns, people that will come on something like this and I'll talk for an hour or two and they'll cut out like a little piece of it and go, this is incorrect because da, 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 da. I expect them to be unfair, to write nonsense, all of that. But people in real life who claim to be either your friend or to want to get to know you or some kind of supposedly friendly position will try to basically say the exact same things. That's why and it's even funnier because they'll actually get surprised when I choose to cut them off after they repeat the same talking points as clowns on the computer. With Triple L, for example, I never directly highlighted the contrast between her showing all of this um, empathy toward a broad who opened her legs and spit out a kid, where it was this broad and this guy that decided to have a kid they couldn't afford. Then when you've got someone who goes to school and gets grades that are satisfactory enough for them to get into a university and they're only unable to attend because they can't afford it and they don't have anyone that's willing to finance this venture, you would then turn to that person who, as far as academics were concerned, theoretically did everything they were supposed to do and say, well, maybe you could have said this to these people. After being told that this person had multiple conversations where they broke down the situation, where they explained why this place was the best area for them to go to. And it's just this very strange thing in people where it's most obnoxious when you see them, if you speak to them long enough and you see them basically uh, talk about things that are more in someone's control than other situations and pretty much take that person's position on the thing that they have more control over than the other way around. Um, just again, to give a comparison, if me and some broad decide to lay up in the bed and then she spits out a kid 9 months later and then I can't afford it, that's a situation I brought on myself because I made the decision to stick my banana inside this broad and pop out a kid I knew I couldn't afford. So I see that as being completely different than someone who's going to a school. Remember, where the main goal is to get grades that pass so you can get a diploma um, or a degree, whichever, based on whatever institution you go to. And your consensus on why it's this person's fault they couldn't graduate is not relating to their grades or their academics. It's simply a matter of having a ridiculous amount of funds that theoretically most people their age wouldn't have. And that's why it was so obnoxious to hear her say that, because she tried to basically make it seem as if I had some way of influencing or controlling the assets of other people. Take Music Fiend, for example. Let's say that he decided right now he didn't want to pay, I don't know, to go to Disneyland. And I sit him down 3 or 4 different times and I say, Music Fiend, you got to go to Disneyland. You got to go there because, da, 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 da. And then each time he says, no, I'm not going. I'm good. That would be his fault for not wanting to use his funds to go there. And it would be completely out of my control because I have no control over what he owns and what he does with what he owns. But if you listen to people like Triple L, you would still get blamed for it anyway, because it's a lot easier to pretend that the person who's trying to change things is the reason they stay the same than the people who actually control things. Disney World's better anyway. Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time, so I'm not going to question that. I'll take your word for it. I don't even think you could go right now. They have it closed down probably. I would think. I have to look into it. It's just really sad that people act in ways like this because I don't think it's productive or helpful at all. You know, when I did the excrement employers uploads, the whole point of doing that was to show the catalog the amount of times to which I had applied somewhere, and to also show the types of positions, because I could see it coming a mile away that people would say, you tried to be CEO of this company or manager of that company. But when you have that set goal of showing what specific places for the purpose of basically eradicating any ignorance someone could have of what those positions were by showing it to them, and then they still say ignorant stuff like you tried for this and you don't have enough qualifications. It's basically just a showing that your attempts at clarifying the situation were a waste of time because people are rejecting the evidence that's been demonstrated to them. I had one person in their complete brilliance. And again, this is the kind of stuff I expect from people online, not individuals in real life. Upon hearing that I've applied for over 100 places in the last 7 months, and usually don't hear anything back, or if I do, it's me being turned down with that interview at all. Their great idea was that I wasn't doing something right on the application, and I kind of did this because if you've ever been on any of these websites, you know that they want you to put your name, they ask you some questions, availability hours, whatever, just the basic stuff. So it's kind of weird when after you filled these things out, literally dozens of times, someone says, "Oh, you're not filling it out correctly." So would you like to know what their brilliant idea was for my next step in changing the reception to the applications? Lie on them. So if you have no experience, or if the place says, hey, you don't need any experience, you just need to smile, whatever, you go on there and say, I used to work for Target for 10 years. Now, keep in mind, these places have, and I'm not going to say all of them because I didn't read the contract for each one, but there were several that said, if we find out you have fabricated and or lied about your past with regard to your employment, we reserve the right to terminate your employment at any time. So theoretically, if I went on there and said, I used to work at Burger King for 8 years, and they hire me, and then 2-3 weeks later they find out that's BS, they can get rid of me on the spot, and they'd be completely justified in doing so because it's in the contract. But this is what I was talking about when I said it's like a cross between blame this person for this situation, and like that's a really stupid idea coming from a grown person, an adult, several times my senior. And their brilliant idea of how to get employed is to lie to the employers. Just fantastic. I was thinking of doing a video. It's going to be called How People Are Set Up to Fail. And it would just kind of examine certain things and talk about how you're in a situation where people will say one thing, but then they act this type of way. So, for example, a lot of these places will say, we prefer someone with experience, but then if they never hire anyone as a collective, how is this person or these people supposed to get experience? Basically, they create the prophecy of never hiring anyone because none of them want give someone their first position, setting up people to fail in terms of seeking employment. Gen X had it so easy, so they think people can't be tracked down, and that the economy is just flourishing. Well, a lot of them grew up in the era of not being, what's a good word for it? The background checks and computers. I mean, they're not used to the things they say actually mattering. In the sense that 30 years ago, you could write on a piece of paper that you worked somewhere for 2 or 3 years, and then somebody couldn't go on a computer, plug your name in, and find out that was incorrect. So they're used to basically just being able to embellish. But the problem is you're embellishing about something that these places want you to prove, and if you can't prove it, you're screwed. I mean, is there even anything left to say about if the trickle down effect started? I mean, I don't remember. I didn't even intend for this to be political, but you can believe what you want. I know that when I was sitting over there filling all those things out, I never once looked up in the sky and said, "Why Reagan? Why?" So I think that's kind of irrelevant to what I'm talking about, because it's the fault of the employers. If they choose to ignore somebody, then you get mad at them, not some random president. I don't get where you were going with that. That's why we're gonna defund you, love. We're gonna make sure he can't comment anymore. But yeah, there's really not much to say about the chick situation that hasn't been said already. Um, in the sense that you could talk to 1,000 of those clowns and people would still blame you for whatever they decide to do. And really, one of the reasons that it's a lot less appealing to discuss on the stream than it is to just do a video about it is because the way that situation is set up is that if you're a man and you discuss being discontent with broads, you have to basically safeguard every single word that comes out of your mouth. Because in the comment section and on these different forums, people wait for you to slip up or to not just extremely clarify what you're saying so they can infer based off of some wording that you mean something more explicit. So, for example, I did this one, I think it was a stream where I talked about basic things I wanted, which were you go on a date, person likes it, do another one, and then that repeats until you want to ask them to get married, whatever, just this long term kind of goal thing. And later in the stream, I mentioned talking to some broad and indicating what I wanted. And because I didn't repeat myself and state that exact same thing again, somebody in the comment section went, You told her what you wanted, but you left it vague here. It was probably sex. I was like, I literally just got through saying what the. But that's what I'm talking about. They go out of their way to misinterpret things, to try to trip up your words, and just to be pricks. Maybe because people overly glorify short-term perfection instead of gradual involvement in achieving growth by setting goals. Well, like I said, the romance thing is pretty much if you're a man, you have to be Superman, and you get blamed for anything that doesn't go the way you want. So sorry, I got slipped up. I'm trying to. There's a lot of little movements going on. That's why that occurred. So I know this music fiend stopped commenting. He gave up on trying to say anything. He just said to hell with it. Oh, Megumi's finally shown up. I really missed you yesterday on that why Super Saiyan Rose was wasted stream, but whatever. It's like, where did he go? He just vanished. Yeah. What's something else I can mention? Oh, but you also saw with Triple L, um, you know, the same kind of philosophy of just it must be your fault with the chick thing, where she said, because the phone call started off with me basically saying, if you have to be a certain age, yeah, I agree with that music thing. That I actually, what's really funny is she apparently is defunded because she was like talking about it was so hard to afford living here. So yeah, that we were not too far off from that. And I have no sympathy. You know why? Because when anytime something bad happened to me, it was his fault. You should have done this. You should have done. So if she were to end up in some bad situation, whether because she got fired or whatever, I'll say, oh well, you should have done uh, insert BS rationale here. So I have no sympathy. If you don't have sympathy for me, I don't have sympathy for you. That's how that works. Music Fiend says, I'm heading out, gonna go watch Manchester United ruin Southampton. Peace. And then Megumi says he needs to watch that stream. Yeah, I was just talking about how other people, other characters could have benefited from having that form, and they could have explained it to us how it was achieved and whatnot. But yeah, so with Triple L, she in the midst of this start of this phone call I had with her, and I mentioned this I think on Saturday, uh, when presented with the position of if you have to be a certain age to get in a relationship, how do you have people that are at various younger ages than the one I was presently at who were able to get in them? And then she said, oh, well, some of them were this and that, but, all these different character traits. Uh, and then she contradicts herself because she admits that I probably acted different than when I first started approaching. But then if I act different as at the later age, and I get the same result, then my overall or individual personality does not matter. It's just this issue that affects people no matter what way they go. I don't know what that has to do with anything, Splendora. I guess this is just a stream where people mention all kind of random stuff. You talk about trying to get a job. They talk about Reagan. You talk about some chicks. They talk about Chris Rock. Unless Chris Rock grew a pair of titties, I don't want to hear about it. Bader says there are grown men who were accused of raping someone, and their defense was, I didn't know, they were uncomfortable with it. Megumi says, considering I've never really watched Super, would be interesting to find out more about that form. Well, they don't really explain it in the show. The manga does a better job, but the show overall, I would not recommend to anybody in its entirety. Like I said, the first two arcs are those last two movies, except uglier looking and stretched out. The third arc is a tournament with no stakes, where most of the new characters are completely underdeveloped. The fourth arc has the worst ending of anything related to that whole franchise, just atrocious. And then the last arc is okay. That's my super review. Okay, Joe says, yeah, I don't waste my time on arguments with stubborn people, including politics. I don't allow people to feed on negative energy like that. Yeah, I don't really argue with them either. What ends up happening is if I can cut them off, I try to, because I don't understand what the point is of talking to someone who, when they are given a rationale of why there's an issue, and you talk about how other people factor into it, like with the job thing, the employers, with the relationships, the chicks, and you show your willingness to get involved with these people to basically put yourself at their mercy. I don't see where it's productive to me to talk to someone who, after hearing all of that, goes, there must have been something you did incorrect. And look, when it was just a chick thing, I always rationalized it as because I realized people have a very like warped view of just how the relationship stuff is at this point. Like you have a lot of people who still believe you can just go out, talk to a few broads, and then get a date, and then that's it. You can live happily ever after. You don't have to jump through this hellhole hamster wheel of talking to dozens and dozens of them while getting blamed for anything they do that does not benefit you. But again, when people would blame me for that, I would just say it's probably because they don't have the same experiences. And like I said, I don't listen to any broads on this topic anymore because like with Triple L, she was trying to relate how she had been offered two marriage requests before she was 18 or something, and I'm like, oh, that has nothing to do with a guy getting turned down over and over again. That's literally the polar opposite. That's like someone telling me about how from the time they were a little kid, they wish that someone would show them how to draw. And then I go, oh, I relate to this so much because when I was little, I had this relative that showed me how to construct a skyscraper with just a pencil. It's like, it's completely different. It's the reverse. Get these conservative girls that go to church. It'll avoid a lot of crap that way. Yeah. If you think people who say they're religious are not as bad as the ones that don't openly practice it, I have a couple of screenshots you'll be interested in seeing. Megumi says, yeah, definitely agree with you on not discussing this issue with chicks due to their like built-in bias they have against what you're saying. And what's even more disturbing is that um, Triple L at various points talked about her past, and it was I basically handled it the reverse of the way she handled me discussing my experiences. So, you know, if you tell her about getting sick of, let's say, the school thing or the relationship stuff, she does the skepticism that's antagonistic to you, where she'll go, well, maybe you didn't do this, maybe you didn't do that. But then if she describes something to you, go, oh, that sucks. Notice there's no attempt to say that there was something she could have done to have changed the situation. Just like at one point, she told me about one of her relatives had committed suicide, and I didn't go, well, maybe if you had been there, like that. I'm not a douchebag. I'm not going to say something, you know, like that. I don't believe in blaming people for things that are out of their control. I just wish the same belief system was applied toward me. You Love says, I keep on being told I will find the one for years now, but I see nothing happening if I try or don't try. Hey, You Love, I was going to make that magic romance here video where I was going to put the screenshot of her saying that you'll eventually, and then this other person saying the same thing, and just be like, I'm waiting for this magic year. All these people have never even met, barely know me, but they somehow have a bigger insight of what's going to happen to me than me. That's really comedic. And then Joe says, yes, it's very gross. I heard stories of people that had videos of them cheating because they set up cameras inside their house. Well, I mean, that just shows you that once you get in a relationship, it's not happily ever after. You have a lot of cheating and infidelity that goes on. But the reason those issues don't get addressed that often or anywhere near as often as, haha, you can't get a girlfriend, haha, is because people want to glamorize getting with someone. They want you to think that, you know, once this happens, you're going to enter this phase of your life where all of your problems get erased. This is why uh, you see a lot of people who, you know, they'll criticize me for talking about this, but then when a broad spits out a kid they can't afford, you know, crickets. There can be a lot of heartbreak involved. Yeah, there are a whole bunch of couples where they don't end with both sides willing to, you know, conclude it. Megumi says, I never understood the age waiting game. Oh, I call it the magic romance here. I just always considered it was another way of being brushed off. Yeah, well, Megumi, that the magic romance here and you're only X age are two different things that people use to deflect from any valid criticisms you make of the opposite sex. So if you talk about getting sick of talking to some broad for weeks or months, and then she's gassing you up saying, "Oh, Megumi, you're such a great person, and I feel a connection, and you're so smart, and you're so intelligent," and in some extreme cases, even compliments you on your appearance, just for them to say they only like you as a friend. It's very valid to say that person led you on, but because people don't like to assign critiques toward chicks ever, because we're in the feminist society, they pretty much just say you're being ridiculous. Get what you get what you gave, basically. Accept this. You Love says, I don't know why we limit ourselves based on our age. Oh well, it's not really us limiting ourselves, it's other people trying to limit us. Um, I gave the example of how when I did the Why Don't Approach video, that was after 6 years um, of just ridiculousness with broads. And any person who is thinking about this rationally and reasonably will say 6 years of trying to do something and getting the same result over and over that is not the desired effect is enough to make someone say to hell with it. But because you're dealing with emotions, what you get on a video like that? Oh, you're ugly. You probably have a lack of confidence. And as I'm being told I have a lack of confidence, these comments are coming from people who are too afraid to show their faces. Hey, Megumi, that's my favorite thing. People call you ugly and then they hide their face and they don't want you to see what they look like. Because you can imagine whatever it is isn't too pleasant. No, that's them playing God. They want you to believe that if they don't like the way you look, nobody anywhere. Like there are a whole bunch of broads I don't even think are attractive in the slightest. And most of them have been with some dude at least once or twice. Or probably even more behind the scenes. Joe says social expectation. People put pressure on others to fulfill certain qualities or qualifications. Yeah, but look, there's nothing wrong with having expectations. But when you cloud them with unrealistic, putting unrealistic power in the hands of the person that you have certain expectations of, you do both yourself and that person a disservice. Megumi says, yeah, I know, right? I'm telling you, that's their favorite thing. They always love to talk about somebody else's looks. But one of the reasons they do that is because they can't combat the points that are being made, uh, against the way that a lot of these chicks act. And you saw the one guy. I never did a particular upload about it, but there was a person who wrote a whole bunch of paragraphs and just, if I'm remembering key points of what he said, one of the things was that you need to develop certain skills that will be more appealing to broads because of the number of things you can do. And I said to myself, I can draw, I can write, I can edit. And I'm not trying to make myself seem as if I have a million different powers, but what the hell are any of these broads doing just in general? Because I knew one broad who could draw, for example. I actually knew about 2 or 3 of them. But I guarantee you, if we go up to most of these chicks, just in general, they don't have 99 different abilities. This isn't a superhero comic. So why? And again, I don't think someone should have to have some very diverse list of skills to get a date. Like when we have to write paragraphs about what you need to do to get a date, that already tells you that the system is rigged against you. Because it's a very minor thing that takes place over the course of a few hours on one day. And you're trying to give somebody paragraphs. Now, maybe if you're writing an essay on how to get married, I'd understand that a little bit more because that's actually a lifelong commitment, or how to raise a kid, or how to, I don't know, pay mortgage, something that is long term. But to get a date, you're going to write somebody a essay in their comment section talking about how they need to have certain skills. People are playing guitar. People say playing guitar makes you 90% more attractive. I play guitar and I'm in the same. Well, listen, that's my point. That when people were saying I was ugly and this was the reason, does every man who's been turned down look like me? Are we all we're like the Borg from Star Trek? We all have the same appearance. No, we're like the stormtroopers. We all look the same. Megumi says the list of demands that the guy is apparently said to have by society and the media amplifies this tenfold. Yeah, they want that's why I said they want the man to be Superman and the broad can just basically do whatever she wants and be accepted for whatever her situation is. This is why when I talked about the one that had the kid, this is someone who was homeless, who was unemployed, who had her man paying for a unit for her to keep her stuff in, and she was cursing him out. And throughout this entire courtship, bad situation after bad situation happened to her, and she never lost her relationship. She never got told that all these different things were her fault by any excess of people. I mean, she had like literal real life plot armor. All the stuff that if I did, I would get in trouble for. She just kept getting away with it. If I had some woman paying for a unit to keep some broad I'm in a relationship with, for example, paying for somewhere where I put all my belongings, and I was cursing her out and talking about how I know more than you because I'm younger than you and I'm way more. People who objectionably reasonable people would say I was being ungrateful, that person should leave me. But because it's a broad doing it to a man, you just put up with it. Reminds me of that one quote from Napoleon Dynamite: girls only want boyfriends who have great skills. But that's the thing. This guy didn't have great skills. The only thing he was doing was paying for, this little unit thing every month. Which again, I'm not, and I always have to clarify, I'm not saying he needs to have a bunch of different skills, but if someone like that is able to have a years-long sustained relationship, I don't think it's some impossible feat to not have these skills and still end up with someone. And I already said the main thing that it needs to happen is a broad has to say, "I will be with this person," and if that doesn't take place, then you're just screwed. You could have you could be. I don't care if you're a basketball player, a soccer player. You know how to play every instrument. If the broad says no, that's it. Megumi says it's laughable. It would be laughable. Well, look, it's laughable maybe a little bit for the chick stuff, but when you have like long-term goals, you want to get married, have kids, then that stuff is always going to get screwed over, and it's going to get screwed over while you have to sit here and listen to clowns who aren't thinking critically tell you that maybe if you cut your hair, or maybe if you lived in a mansion, or maybe if you owned a Lamborghini, this would all change overnight. Discounting the fact that there are men who don't own a Lamborghini, have mohawks, ponytails, all kind of different hairstyles, and they're still able to get with a partner. I knew one guy who lived in a one-room shack that had. No, I'm not even going to say that because that's going to disenfranchise too many people. Just know that whenever you hear someone say you need to live a certain place, that is anything but the case. I think that actually rhymed too. Wow. But no, the job thing isn't laughable because that's people playing with someone's life and then having a bunch of individuals online basically supporting the screwed up situation of these people playing with that person's life. Just how ridiculous all these absurd expectations. Yeah, and it's even crazier when you consider that, like, I have proof of what I say. I've shown screenshots of chicks saying one thing and then changing their mind a few days later. I had the screenshot of the broad that was like telling me all this stuff about she was in the BDSM and then was calling me by some affectionate term or whatever. And then after a few days of not sending me any message, said she was done, goodbye. But I'll still get blamed for some. I'll still be told I have no idea what I'm doing, and you did something wrong. It's like, well, if I did something wrong, why did that? person speak to me for as long as she did. But again, when you're talking about this or any other situation that people have issues with, critical thinking skills go out the window because it's a lot easier to just blame the one person who's trying to make things different for why they stay the same. They won't blame the broad who told that man that she was attracted to him and that she found him smart and funny and all the other little, nice fluff. They won't blame her for why it didn't happen after, she wants to friend zone him, but they'll blame the guy who was completely accepting of her for why it occurred. I just want to live a simple white life with a woman that has a realistic sense of reality. None of that fancy, flashy crap trying to get the paparazzi to chase them. Well, they act like all of these broads are like celebrities and superstars, and it's really crazy when you consider that it's not the case. The ultimate red herring, yeah. It's like I said, you those are the worst ones. Like if I go to a mall and I see some, big titty bimbo walking and I go, "Oh, can I have your number?" And she says no. It is what it is. Nobody's time was wasted. It's over just as soon as it looked like it might have started. There's no kind of expectation, nothing. It's just that's it. When you talk to some clown for 5, 6, 7 months, or hell, 5, 6, 7 weeks, and they go, "Oh, I feel a connection with you, and I want to speak more," and they're trying to have hours-long calls with you every week, and then that bastard tells you that I want to be friends. It's red herring, and that's not okay. Like, go be friends with some dude you want to screw. What the hell is the point of investing that much time in someone just for them to pretend, "Oh, well, I was only interested in being like, go no, no." Men are like dogs on social media in terms of following chicks. Yeah, they're like this. But the problem is when you have men who don't do that, they get encouraged by other people to do that. That's why when I was in that Discord server, or as I should call it, Piscord, you had people who said I was, like selfish for not talking to broads. They're not saying I'm selfish because I decided to, after stop talking to them, go out and murder and rape and do all kind of things that actually are selfish and are evil and do deserve to be condemned. They're upset because I said, these people show no interest in me, so I'm not going to bother showing any interest in them. They were so livid over me just saying I'm good. I've had my fill of nonsense and time wasting. But they were upset about that not because it's unreasonable for a person who, again, for 6 years gets nothing but a bunch of stupid phone calls and red herring. They were upset because when you have a penis, you are expected to capitulate and kowtow and acquiesce to the petulance of every single broad that dares to speak to you. That's why I said that a lot of what goes on, one of the reasons I don't like social media or why like I just don't enjoy typing stuff to people is there's a lot of dehumanizing that happens in relation to those that I guess what's a good word of putting it, are open or candid about things they struggle with. So if you talk about, being unemployed, people aren't going to get upset at the employers who, after you send out 100 applications, don't say anything. They're going to get upset with you because they believe that there's this magic button you can press that's going to make all these people who show generally no interest in hiring anybody. That's why we have record levels of unemployment right now. They're going to pretend you are the person who changes things. Same thing with the chick stuff. We had this thing about 80% of broads, only like 20% of dudes or whatever. And, we've talked about there's a 30-year low in birth rates. Just, certain data that goes along with this idea that people are not, or at least men are not as successful in getting with broads as they used to. And even if you have a specific story, you talk about years of just getting the exact same situation over and over, they still say to hell with whatever actually was bothering you, or the proof that you have that these people wasted your time year after year because you have male genitals. You're not allowed to quit this. You have to, for the rest of your life, capitulate, appease, and acquiesce to people that don't give a damn about you. It's a continuous loop, like a cycle without end. It only ends when you die. Get blamed forever. I even had, I think, a screenshot of a broad who said she didn't, what's a good way of putting it? She didn't feel like having a relationship with anyone or something like that. But I would still get blamed for that. And then even if you get them to concede that that one chick messed it up, they still will blame you for all the other ones. Doesn't matter if you have proof to back up your position and dispel the confusion of allegations. Well, that's why I said that they don't want to believe those types of things because they go against their narrative. This is why when the person was offered to see the over 100 applications I had done, instead of seeing those, looking at the positions I applied for and then going, maybe this person has a point about how difficult it is to get employed, their response was to simply say, oh, you're not filling these out correctly. Because it's not about understanding a situation. It's just trying to appease whatever bias you have in your head. If you think it's easy to get employed, then of course the person who keeps applying and hearing nothing back is at fault. Never mind what specific situation is going on currently. It's that person's fault. If you think getting a relationship is easy and you see someone struggling with it, to hell with what specific things are happening. It's that person's fault. If you see, just to throw this in too, if you see a person who's the director of a project where they give all the voice actors as much time as they need, as long as they communicate when they could possibly do it in the future, it's that person's fault when they leave. Let's completely ignore that he gave them extensions and appease them at every turn for the most part. It has to be that person's fault because we have our bias on. Yeah, social medias are really, and just a lot of people in real life are very dehumanizing. They choose to respond to things in ways that make individuals seem less like people and more like these puppets of flesh that are just kind of meant to do whatever somebody else wants. And that's basically what was going on in that Discord server. Ignore the fact that all these broads wasted your time, at least out of the ones that you spoke to for months, because you always indicated you were interested in them and they never said it back. Whatever they want out of you, you're just supposed to do it. So if it means being friend zoned for 2 years or longer, just do it. To hell with your dreams, to hell with your wants, to hell with your desires. This person has some melons and a triangle. So we're going to look at things from her angle. It's really unfortunate just how bad things have gotten. Well, look, you gotta understand that, look at the people who are benefiting from this. In an era where people are mainly concerned about the feelings of broads are benefiting, so no one cares. Now, if it was the reverse, where it was like a bunch of dudes just raping and being evil, then people would actually take issue with it. You even have people on Twitter who say they'll believe a broad if she accuses a man of, molesting her without any proof, until, like, literally saying guilty until proven innocent, as far as the man is concerned. And hell, you saw what happened with Triple L, where, the broad wasn't even there and they still believed this invisible broad they've never met, or took that person's side over the person that they claimed they had come to see as a friend. Just, it's ridiculousness. But again, those positions aren't taken because I communicated it in a way where I made it, what's a good word to put it? I made things seem more sympathetic or more in favor of the broad. It's just simply whoever has you know, the right genitals people defend. Then again, because of this feminist society, there are certainly guys who would actually wish our trains to be women, not really surprised. Not only sometimes aren't the false accusers charged, they when they're proven to be lying or they don't go forward with their allegations, nothing happens to them. I haven't seen one person who accused a man of touching them that's ever, after being caught, lying, ever have been gone after. But if I came out and said some broad touched me, I would get laughed at. People would say I was trying to ruin a reputation, all kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like anytime a broad wants to make a man come down or ruin his reputation, you just have to say he touched her, even if she's never met him in person. And you have idiots on Twitter saying, well, 60 something or 90% of the time when a woman comes forward, it's true. So because it happens 90% of the time, we're not going to look at individual cases anymore. We're just going to go, well, it's usually true. So this automatically happens. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like everything is slanted in favor of broads when it comes to relationships. And then with the employment situation, every time you talk about how screwed up what they're doing is as a collective where they won't hire anybody, people just, they don't care. They take the side of the employer. You didn't appeal to them in a certain way. Yeah, but even if it was 2%, it still means that these people are using a statistic to ignore the specifics of most cases or of any cases. Like if I tell you that most of the kids that can't afford things in life are born from parents of whatever age, and I tell you about the dingbat with baby, I'm not going to use her age against her. I'm going to say this is a dumb broad because she had a kid she couldn't afford, not because she was age whatever. And that was something Triple L even like fell over, that she was trying to use and I'm like, it has nothing to do with it. This bimbo could be 50, and if she does something she can't afford, or has a kid she can't afford, then like it still is an issue. People are a really obnoxious group. And really, the only regret I have about relationships is I can't cut more people off because I'm tired of some of the stupid stuff that's said. I mean, if you listen to some of the trash that just spews out of these people's mouths, um, it is enough to make me want to catch that virus and just pass away right now. That is it. It's too obnoxious. It's too stupid. It's too opposed to reality to want to put up with. God, and I guess maybe what gets on my nerves is that I actually practice what I preach. So I gave the example earlier of what I did when Triple L was talking about her experiences. But when people recount to me, when they like whether it's a male or a female, their issues with relationships, I generally believe what they're saying. If some broad says she got raped, I'm a hell of a lot more likely to believe that than someone coming out against a famous person, because what does she have to gain by mentioning that? Like what would be the point of lying about something like that in this particular scenario? If someone mentions that their boyfriend cheated on them, I would believe that too. What I think is so funny is when we discuss issues we've had with broads or just chicks in general, there is no benefit of the doubt. There is no attempt at saying, "Oh, well, I'm very sorry to hear that." But Megumi, this is part of a narrative where you, as the man, are not allowed to have um, your experiences actually matter, but then you're supposed to care about what happens to other people. There was a relative I had, or I have rather, who 3 years ago, I got into this big shouting match with, and they and another relative were spoken of highly by this other person who went, "Oh, they, they're into clothes and but that's okay because we're into politics." And now the reason this was stupid is because this same, not the person saying this, but the one I got into the shouting match with, they had critiqued me and insulted me over the things I was into. So I was basically being told that I need to accept this person for who they are while they don't accept me for who I am. And that's fair. That's like, that makes sense to people. And I said, no, it's not okay. It's not free. You know, my support or liking of someone is not something that you just gain because you asked for it. Your experiences are very rarely legitimized by others due to your gender. Yeah. I mean, you saw Triple L. Well, this broad let this guy stick his banana in her unprotected because she had trauma. She had trauma even though every man she approached accepted her. But you don't have any, even though you had to talk to 90 chicks just to get a couple of calls. That makes total sense. Yeah. Like, nobody thinks that's insane. This idiot that gets every dude she wants has trauma. But you don't, as the person that's been turned down dozens of times by people that don't even like bother actually getting to know you. Nobody thinks that's crazy. This bimbo has trauma while she gets to quit her job that she had, gets taken in after being homeless, gets a relationship that lasts for several years after after having someone approach her. But then you don't have trauma when you're unemployed for a year, or when you don't get approached ever and you have to keep approaching, getting turned down over and over. I mean, it's just like, I'm telling you, if I had a vagina, it would be it would be a different story. Everything I say, people would believe. I wouldn't have to show 99,000 screenshots. But when you're the wrong gender, you get treated like trash. And that'll be a good video of like 10 times chicks treated Justin like trash, and I have like a bunch of screenshots of this nasty stuff they said. Because I actually do have, if I go and dig through my Reddit messages, which I don't feel like doing, they don't have to believe me. I actually had 2 chicks who, once they saw what I looked like, stopped speaking to me. And then they want to tell you that broads are not conceited and they're not looking for appearance, but they're so concerned about, who can take care of them and understand their needs and their desires. Yeah. Oh, it would be really easy to come up with that list, but I want to do the video on that snake first, because he did some goofy stuff. He deserves to get ridiculed for the buffoonery that took place. It's not even going to be ridiculing. It's just me talking about how insane what he did was. Well, it's another one of those things where people try to make them sound like they're these deeper, complex creatures when they do a lot of the stereotypical things that we would accuse them of. And not, like all of them, but we have proof that some of them do these things. I actually was really surprised when that happened, because I just thought that they would be smart enough to make it seem as if, what's a good way of putting it? They were at least interested in, doing something else. What's a good, like, basically the idea that you immediately stop responding after you get what I look like, it's a bad look as far as in trying to not say you're conceited. Now, of course, they don't care because they're broad, so nobody will criticize them ever for anything. But I just think it's insane that if I were to do something like that, I'd be considered a jerk. shallow, all kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really sad to try to, because again, most of the people that are doing this are adult age, as far as I can tell. And I try to sit here and give a rationale or a reason for the positions I have, and they basically just kind of keep ignoring the validity of my points just for the sake of being obnoxious. And these are grown people who you like. They're saying childlike crap. It's really ridiculous. I mean, I don't get it. Grown adults who have childlike arguments. Like, I could tell my little brother about this stuff, and he would be more well versed in responding to these things than they do. Also, there's a argument going on right out here, so if you can hear it, I apologize. I'm really regretful. I can't wait for somebody to blame me for that in the comment section. Why didn't you stop these two people from arguing before while you were streaming? Because I'm supposed to be like psychic. I can just tell what's going to happen in the future. I remember that one dude that there were people yelling outside, and they were like, "Go tell them to shut up." And then I was doing this one stream at that motel I was at, and someone was like, "There's a beeping noise." I'm like, "But what am I supposed to do? Like, it's not in here. It's not coming from me. So am I supposed to go down the street and grab someone by the neck and demand that they turn off whatever that is?" And it wasn't loud, evidently, since there was only that one person that said anything or laughed over it. It's the norm now, isn't it, for fellow streamers? Yeah. Yeah, you love. Why didn't I go outside and tell everybody to shut up and get my belt? Why didn't I pull out my infinity gauntlet and snap my fingers and have them disappear? Yeah, it seems to be the norm. Regrettably, I used to actually turn when I would get interrupted when I would do streams on my phone. I would turn the camera off. Like, I would just say to hell with the stream because I feel like it was ruined because of all the background shenanigans. But I just it's been awful with the virus because it's just people here all day long, every day. 2 or 3 interruptions per stream at this point. It's just the thing that they do now. What else is there to discuss? God, I just don't understand why people have a like weird thing about having someone basically say, "These are my reasons for feeling this type of way." With you have proof, uh, and then their response is to basically just say, "Ignore the proof. I feel this way, so what I feel is more important than the logic that you have." Why did you have that color? Yeah. And Megumi, that person came back after a year to start complaining about that. Oh, you mean for the oh, okay, now I know what you were referencing. Well, I apparently people on here think that I'm talking to all these chicks on like Skype camera 24/7 because most of them don't even actually end up seeing what I look like since it was on like Reddit and all the other places where you're typing stuff to someone. I'd actually be hard pressed to name more than maybe 2 dozen who I actually spoke to in like on Skype or over the phone or something. It's usually just a bunch of stupid messages. I told you about the one broad on Reddit that was like, if you don't message me, if you don't want to talk by messages, go away. And then I told Triple L, and she was like, "Well, I think what she meant to say was that she wasn't ready to speak outside of messages yet." I'm like, "Dingbat, idiot hoe! I literally have the message where she said, 'I will not speak to you if you don't talk to me in text.'" But that's what I'm saying. Like, they are at a point where they deny reality. Like I think I mentioned the story before. I had to go in my DMs on Twitter, not Twitter, on Reddit, and pull out that message and read it to her for her to finally like concede that I wasn't, misinterpreting or like I read I remember distinctively what the broad wrote. She didn't mean it yet. No, she didn't mean it ever. Like you're gonna if she got what she wanted, her my way or the highway, I would have been talking to that dingbat in text until I'm 90. And who has time for that? Oh, let me not lean back because that's when people leave. They like being up close and personal. I don't want to go back to calling her ladylike and logic because then we can keep mixing her up with Triple H. Instead of it's all about the game, it's all about the blame. How many ways we can blame you for it. But not even Logic Megumi, she denied reality. And then I told you about the idiot relative that was like, you're not getting hired because of your hair. And I'm like, you stupid bastard. If out of 100 places, only one of them schedules to have an interview with me, and there's no picture on the application, that means that not a single one of those places, other than that one I had the interview with, actually saw what I looked like. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't even, like, to hell with reality. Also, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate it. Now, people don't care about anything, like, other than just confirmation bias. It's your fault. Oh no, it's that person that tried to copyright her last name. That's why she won't use it on here anymore. She was trying to sue YouTube. She has that video. If you go on her channel, you can type her name in on YouTube. She has that video. She says she doesn't watch streams with people with glasses, or if she does, she makes sure that she tries to make it about her. We're not going to let her win. She's not going to get her way. No, this chick stuff is like the cancer killing men. Because like there was a time where you didn't have to have 90 skills or get critiqued over. I mean, if you read some of the stuff that was just like written across this website, appearance, occupation, personality, and it's like people who are critiquing my personality have never even met me. This could all be an act. But then it's like you got to get into the specifics. Do you actually believe every person that got with the broad has like all think the same, all act the same? And again, these are very basic ways of, I guess, shattering those claims that they make on here. When they're trying to give advice. No, I did not ban him. One of my mods banned him in January for writing something evil, and then I unbanned him. And he never said thank you. What a grateful individual. And you love just made me forget my points. So I'm about to ban him. See you later. All right, you love is now gone. He left the building. He's out of here. You won't be seeing you love anymore. Instead, we're gonna have a bot account called I Hate, and that'll be on here instead. Or I Rage or something. And it's got like some red, angry face avatar. You know the red emoji, the one that is like that's the one I'm gonna have for the avatar for that replacement account for you love. Yeah, it's just been a really sad development with these people. And I gotta admit, until the employment thing started happening, I never really paid attention because I always just said it was the chick thing people act stupid on. But man, when I look at the nonsense that's written online and said in person about the employment thing, it all adds up. People lack the willingness to give someone else the benefit of the doubt. And like I said, I wouldn't have that much of a problem with it if it were just people online doing it, but it's people in real life who will literally say the exact same things a troll will. Maybe in a nicer tone because it's not being written on, in the comment section, but it's still the same, effect. You need to act this way to get with somebody. You need to wear this when you go for your interview, even though 90% of these places won't even interview you. Getting burned from both sides. Yeah, like people always say, the internet is so toxic. Get off of here if you can. And then you get off of there, and then you get the same toxicity in real life. All angles possible. Yeah, they're pretty much trying to just stay in every position other than yours, which is why they'll attack you and critique you 99 different ways. I mean, you just can't win on here. It's way too aggravating to. I guess I'm just not going to try to talk reasonably to people on here anymore about certain stuff. Like when I do the romance stuff, I'll just try to and I've been doing this in real life. I just try to keep it only to people who I know have had the same issue, because they're a lot more willing to just pay attention to what is being said and not offer the same, routine, cartoonish advice that other people like to dull out. And I said before, I could get hired tomorrow, and it still would be ridiculous because it shouldn't take 120 plus applications to get a job, and it shouldn't take talking to over 90 chicks to get in a relate. This is too ridiculous. I've never seen this person before. It feels like a never losing battle no matter how hard you try. Well, yeah, that's why it was easy for me to stop approaching because I just got to a point where I was like, if I'm going to get the result of never getting with someone, I'd rather not, you know, have the illusion of appearing to make progress, via talking to some chick for weeks or months. Like when you get to a point where you feel you'd have the same result from going out and talking to a bunch of broads that you would just sitting at home, that's how you know it's just been way too slanted against you. Would you say your problems would be fixed in any way if you were a chick? Oh yeah. I mean, look, the broad that I described, she's not considered smart. She's not considered, certainly not considered funny, and is, I would say, average at best. She's not ugly, but she's not, like, oh my god, I gotta get with her. But she still was able to get a partner very easily. And what was it, like 2014? Well, I was in my last 3 years of logging on to this website and going on here. So yeah, I think that would be solved. The employment thing might be a little bit easier. I don't know because it seems like a lot of these places do hire a pretty even number of people. But definitely the romance thing would have long been, over. It's just when you're a man, you have to, you're told to capitulate and acquiesce and kowtow to, the opposite sex. So if they're kowtowing to you, the man, if you're a chick and it's hypothetical, it's a lot simpler. Yeah. Miss Last Name. If you would like, I can send you 3 separate videos of me applying to over 100 places in 6 months, but Continue to tell me about how women are doing such a much more time and effort into getting a job. Should it have been 200 or 300? Do we need 500? I want to know what was the specific number that would put me on par with these women who are putting a lot more time and effort into getting a job. At least the women versus men I know, and I'm not saying you don't. Now I know what you were saying. I like I said, I saw your videos. I've been referencing at least 35 of them. Oh, you love says I hate that saying. Oh, you went up to 50. Yeah, we discussed that before. You have idiots that came on my video talking about you need to approach 5 chicks a day. You need to go to the mall, to the beach, to the liquor store. And I said on the stream, they're making the chick thing seem like you want this to be a ghetto version of One Piece. You got to explore the world to get a date. Talk to half a thousand chicks to get a date. Oh my God. Jane is like, ban me, please, get rid of me. I'd love nothing more than to be gotten rid of. Applying for a job entails more than just filling in an application online. Well, yeah, there's also the interview. I know they have some orientation before, but the problem is if these places never schedule to have an interview, can't really make any progress. Why would I ban you? Well, between your constant negative mentions of me in videos and these very condescending comments, you're on your last leg. Like this is you right now, and we're about to knock it off. Why would you ban me? Trying to say I don't know what applying for a job entails. I filled out so many applications. I can fill them out with my eyes closed. Those things do get really repetitive after a while, especially the ones for what store is that? Pizza Hut, or it's like them and something. I think KFC where they have that like 50 button leadership thing. I know, Kevin. I'm genuinely asking since you mentioned it. I don't know what your rules are. What are you asking? I don't see. Oh, the why would you ban me thing. All right. Yeah, Kevin pointed out the obvious. Oh, it's very tedious, you love. It's just, it's this the merry-go-round, hamster wheel. You apply for 30 jobs this month, hear nothing back. I guess I'll just try harder next month. You apply for another 20 or 30 the month after that, you hear nothing back. I guess I'll just keep on trying. You get blamed for not hearing anything back because you're supposed to be the puppet master. I told you that's the worst part of this stuff where you give like a bunch of effort and then you get nothing back and then you get blamed for it. No, Megumi, it's your fault you weren't able to get with the woman because you're supposed to be like baby from GT and jump in her skin and make her go with you. Could you imagine if you could actually do that and she had like the white hair and a little red? Like, remember, it's your fault you can't get a job. When you apply somewhere, you're supposed to go to that specific store, ask who to speak to the manager, and then jump in his skin. He's like, I am now employed. Damn, they are crazy. They're like people just, they really make you seem like God on here. They like everything is in your control. And it's funny too because when they give advice and you ignore them, that's you basically doing to them what has been done to you when you apply for a job and talk to some broad, and they don't like it doesn't connect to them that the reason their advice is failing is because they don't control what other people do, just as you don't control what other people do when it comes to those two situations I mentioned. But like that similarity in the fact that people can't control someone else's actions, they don't get it. I tell most jobs I have no internet, so I can apply in person. Well, I've gone into some of them, and they tell me to go and basically fill out an application and then hear nothing back on the computer. I don't know which is more complicated, getting a one girl to date or getting a job. I don't know what to call this, a waiting game or a dating game. Well, you see some people who try to conflate them. There was a broad who came on one of my videos and she was like, "You said you're not going to talk to chicks anymore. If you're trying to get a job, you say you're just not going to look for it." She tried to compare the two of them together, and I'm like, "Oh, you don't, you can live without getting abroad." It's like, you actually need the other one to survive, and these people are playing with your life, and that's why this is much more serious. I'm sorry if this offended you. Well, listen, you love. If you don't believe me, I've got screenshots. I unfortunately don't have a lot of the older text messages because I changed phones, but uh, I have screenshots that can prove me either hearing nothing back or having them indefinitely say I'm not interested uh, several dozen times. Probably, I'd say somewhere between 60 or 50. But again, a lot of this is due to stuff just being on all kind of websites. Some of it's on Reddit, some of it's on text messages I no longer have. So, if you don't believe me, that's cool. I just don't know why I would make that up, but have fun. I just created this number one day in a lab. Yeah, well, the thing is, I would say the exact number if I remembered. There was literally one chick that said, "I'm not interested," and I responded back by saying 31. Just wondering, why do you call women broads? Well, would you prefer if I called them whores or bimbos or like, I don't, it's just a colloquial term. It's just like when people call men dudes. So like, what's so confusing? Cum dumpsters, would you prefer that as their nickname for me? Banana receptors. I'm just wondering what term is the best one to use. It's the most blamed man in the universe. Apparently, I told you people harp on stuff that doesn't really matter. Like whether I call them women or chicks or females or the opposites, whatever. It doesn't erase the points that are being made. I don't hear people call them that, and I've only been called that in a derogatory way. That's why I asked. I'm just curious. Haha. I know you don't mean it that way. Well, again, I'm just using a colloquial term. Yeah, it's just a term people call them by. It's not meant to, be some kind of negative thing. Maybe I should use some negative terms. I should say that sex that won't give me none. That would be my way of referring to them. Because these idiots love saying he only wants to get screwed. They act like I can't just go to the state adjacent to mine and pay for it. I said it's been used that way. Well, I have no control over how other people use it. That's like me saying, did you base your name off of I don't know, some fictional character? And you're like, no, I didn't do that. And like, oh, well, it's your name's been used that way. It's like you had no control over that person naming that character the same name. I can think of some derogatory ones too. Oh, I try not to use like really direct profanity on here because people like to cry. He said a bad word. Wait. Obviously. I didn't know it was obvious. So now you're gonna call me stupid after asking me why I would use this term that you've heard other people use. Oh, they love having any opportunity to spin that narrative about wanting to screw. Yeah, and it's really weird too. Well, I told you it's them trying to conflate. That's why I said I'm not part of any of those groups because you directly come out and say I want, marriage, family, whatever, like specific long-term things. And when you're part of those groups, they go, he's just mad because he can't get anybody in bed. Yeah. I didn't blame you for anything. That's why I asked. Well, I didn't say that you did. I'm just saying that there are certain terms that people use in different ways. And that's that. I haven't seen Jimmy in so long. I thought he caught the virus. I was so concerned about him. Where did he go? No, Megumi, I'm not. I almost don't even want to do any more Dragon Ball stuff after that clown show I saw yesterday. I was like, so wait a second. I do a stream on how they waste the form and how they could use it in a better way, and that gets like 5 people watching. But then some dude makes a video on if a character has an STD, and it just gets that like what? It's like I'm done. Hang up my hat. This guy said he would fix my door at 10:30. It is now 1 o'clock with no update or text back. Why do people do this? Because they don't. He's not adherent to his claim. I mean, you can blame the algorithm. I don't understand what the appeal of something like that is. A character that doesn't even have any real romantic attraction. They want to do like, ugh. I know they do, Jane. That's why I came up with that line about, before someone wastes the world's time writing whatever. And then we found out that Jimmy goes around with no mask licking park benches so he can infect the world. And some of the stuff on here that gets views is just insane. What else is there left to say? Oh, I can't wait to get more blame over more stuff. Then again, if you were a chick and did that video, you probably would have netted a lot more. Oh, of course. Well, I told you, I found out at some point between last year and the year before that a lot of people who watch, because I used to say that people listen to what a broad has to say because they find her attractive. There are men who go on chicks' videos and turn the audio all the way down and just whack off to looking at her speak. And I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world. Like, you could just go to a porn website. Like, what is the whatever? I just personally don't understand what the point of that is. Okay, Gumi also says, mind you, of course, it wasn't due to the actual video or how informative it may be. It'll just be to listen to the chick. It always comes back around to this topic, huh? Ma'am, I discussed multiple topics on multiple other videos. So let's not play that game. If you're a chick and you do any video, you get more attention. Pretty much. I mean, yeah, there is a person, I'm not going to name her, but she had like 500,000 subs, and people were all turned on by her voice, and they were like thinking that she was hot because of her avatar. And then when they saw what she looked like in real life, they were they were very unimpressed. Let's put it that way. It's like, oh, your voice is so sexy. And then what happened was one of these guys went to boot camp with her. She used to be in the military. No, it wasn't her face. It was her weight. And like basically they called her a trailer trash. I didn't think she was that, like awful looking, but she certainly wasn't anything mesmerizing. And like they were, her views bottomed out so much after that. Oh my God. Yeah, people on here are really lucky. I don't like to say names or show clips of stuff because I would have no problem putting her picture up. Yeah, and then she used to do, those like what are the sweepstakes where they're like a random sub will receive a PlayStation from me. She would make a fake account and then award herself the sweepstake prize. So you would enter your name into this, like to get this reward, and then she would get it herself. And then she's so stupid, she made like the name stuff that people could track back to her. Basically, I said there's something wrong with people on here. Oh, it was a face reveal and a weight reveal. That avatar she had was skinny. It was like really slim. And then, man, you saw what she looked like. I've seen those before. Pretty hilarious how they turn on them after discovering how they look like. Well, that's something I never had an issue with because I always showed myself. That's why VVS won't do it because he doesn't want people to harass. He doesn't want other men to talk about the way he looks. I don't blame him. You're not pretty to me, sir. I'm not supposed to be. Damn, people on here are crazy. Like, oh my God. Oh, look for that. I didn't even read the angst comment. Looking for that one special date has become more complicated. People have become too picky. Well, that's why I said that it's like a lose-lose situation because people are trying to get you invested in something that is very is not guaranteed. So, and that you don't actually need. So, you theoretically could get a six-pack and get all this crap, but do you actually need it to get a date? No, because you've seen people don't have that stuff to get a date. And would you really want to go through all that just to go on one date? Not to get married, not like it's not worth it. Now, Slum Digger doesn't respect me. I saw his comment. That's why Jane vanished. She's gonna take Slum Digger with her. They're gonna vanish to disappear in a cloud of smoke. Getting a six. I agree, but I'm saying that like those are the ridiculous physical traits that I was supposed to take on with the accordance of me supposedly being so hideous and hard to look at and hide your eyes. It was a six-pack. It was some like enormous six figures or whatever. Just all kind of nonsense. So she can get a real last name. Yeah. That's going to be the new goal for her to get a real name at the end of her name. Or maybe her last name is last name. There are people who do have their password as password because it's, quote unquote unexpected. So maybe that's actually what, she wants to do. I'm just imagining, because I know YouTube has a full name thing where you put your full name, but for the last name part, she actually puts last name. And she makes sure not to have a space in between it so it can be one word. Uh-oh, let me grab my phone. Need to change something. Oh, that's kind of ominous. Yeah, it's a really chick stuff is just it's a loop-de-loop. The job stuff is a loop-de-loop. Getting a six-pack takes discipline and a lot of complicated exercise. Well, yes, but also remember that you're not doing this because you want to see if you have discipline or get in shape or whatever the hell. You're doing it because people online are telling you that it's going to guarantee you a date, which is why it's not worth it. No one should do something they don't want to do just because they think it's going to get them abroad. I don't waste my time with that. How old do you want me to be? Doing all that work in the gym is not worth it for one date. But you know what they're going to spin? They're going to be like, once you get in shape, you're going to meet some broad and she's going to want to get married and do all the stuff you want to do. It's like, no, it's not how it works. You might meet one chick and then you'll get played the exact same thing and realize you exact same way you were played before and realize you wasted your time. It's pretty easy actually. Cut out carbs and unhealthy food. Okay, even if you think it's easy, it's still something they want you to do just for abroad. Like, think of how crazy that is. Imagine if I said, if somebody wants to go on a date with me, they have to they have to be into politics and they have to be into, cartoons or whatever. Like, just, there is no person on this planet that is worth changing or altering the things you're into just to have 2 to 3 hours of one day with them. It's not. And even if they want to do more, you still shouldn't have to jump through all those hoops and change who you are just to get with one person. You first. I think she's like 21 or 20, one of those two, or 19 or something. A lot of us guys have been lied to through the idiot box, media, television. Yeah, but a lot of us have chosen to be lied to. That's why I had that saying, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see, where people can tell you you need to have all these things, but then if you actually look at people who are in relationships and notice that they don't have those things and still stay together, then you know it's BS. It'd be pretty easy to just match my age, so I'm good. I don't know what that means. Match or whatever. You're over there speaking in riddles. I'm gonna do a stream like that where I just speak in riddles. I'm like, riddle me this. Who annoys us all year long and lies constantly? Yeah, but the concept of getting a six pack is to get a single date, which is also not guaranteed. It was just like that guy said, the juice does not. Was it the juice is not worth the squeeze? So that one date is not worth, you know, drilling yourself physically and all this other crap. You just have to do things that are long term for yourself. Like, I don't make videos I think I'm gonna get laid from. I do them because I enjoy them, or I, feel like I have something to say. Things are a lot more rewarding if they're not attached to how you feel about someone else perceiving them. Jane says six packs are not attractive, honestly, while looking at a book with the cover of a man with a six pack. Kevin says if you're exercising for other people's approval, your ego is lifting. Well, theoretically, wouldn't you not, like they say that people who get turned on have no confidence, but wouldn't people who only exercise because they think someone else will like them more for it be showing a lack of confidence by doing something because they think someone else will like it, not being comfortable with what they already do? Just saying. As a boxer, a six pack hardens my gut so I can take a 10-ounce or glove punch to my liver. I like how Slum Digger had right with a bunch of periods at the end of it. I have literally seen girls go crazy for a nice body, same as I have seen men do it. Men go crazy over all kind of chicks, man. That's not even a good comparison. You put any kind, like, man, it's so out of whack. Nice body doesn't equal six pack. I didn't say that it did. Could you imagine? I finally got my six pack. I can't wait to get a date. And then you go up to some random chick. Hey, you're pretty. Can we go on a date? And she says, no. What do you mean? No, I worked for the six pack for so long. I didn't sign up for this. You did all that for a broad that doesn't even like you. She didn't like you before you had the six pack, and she doesn't like you after you have it. Some chicks are attracted to the height, the 6'2". Oh, that's BS. Because I'm 6'2", and I'm so tired of people playing that game. That height matters. Hey Megumi, if you're still here, here's a comparison you'll like. Height and it's like its relevance in getting a date is like skill in Dragon Ball, where it's like, oh, if you have the most skill, you can win. No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. Whoever can punch the hardest wins. No, next person who mentions height is just going to make me go crazy. You would be much more upset. Well, no, I mentioned before, my friend is 5'7", and we have the exact same issue. And again, most of these people have never even met me in person, so they wouldn't know how tall I was. And if it mattered so much, why did I get turned down over and over? Well, would I have been turned down 140 times? Like much more times if I was shorter? Like, I don't. Scrawny hood guys with tattoos. Oh, I'm not getting a tattoo. That Take your tattoo, shove it sideways, and stick it up your backside. I'm not getting that for no clown that for something that's not just at all. It's stupid. Again, that's another thing you should do if you actually want to do it, not because you think it's going to make somebody go ooh. It has other effects. Being short also drastically affects how other men perceive you. There are studies around all of that. Okay, but when how other men perceive me does not have to do with a broad being attracted to me. That's why when all those dudes, those male clowns, were writing, "You are ugly," it didn't have any effect because I'm not trying to appeal to penises anyway. I would never get them myself. I think they're a waste of my time. If other people want to do it, that's fine. I was about to go get something to eat, so I'll see you later. I'm glad we were able to do this a little bit longer than I was intending. Jane is evil. I appreciate Megumi and Slum Digger for showing up. And Kevin needs to appear more often. See you.